My name is Mitch Horrocks and this is my video journal for the upholstered ottoman. So today I'm going to run you through the whole design process and then the production phase. So I'll start off talking about the design process. So the first designs I came up with were basic shapes centered around stool designs and footrest designs, which I thought would be a nice feature for a room. So things like this would be quite nice, I thought. So in my process, in the 6 models, I came up with a shape that was similar to the one that I explained before. So it's basically like that, with a rounded top, and then that would extend, and basically it's very simple. Have a rounded bottom as well. So it's just a nice form. You could use the top as a seating area. Obviously this with the backrest as well. So that's when I came up with developing something similar to what I have now, which is that sort of pyramid style design on this corner, and obviously with the same on the other corner. I needed to make side profiles. So from these side profiles I was going to be able to cut from the solid block of foam. Stick it on the block there, or this side profile, stick it on the block there, and just basically cut, trace, and then cut along these lines. The easiest way to make sure I cut these pieces correct, I decided that I would cut straight along there. So basically that was one piece, this was one piece, and that was one piece. So I basically cut along that line straight in, and that would give me 3 pieces. Once I had lined those pieces, I started gluing. So I glued it all together with the adhesive, held it in place. It was very easy, very simple, glued pretty quickly. To be honest, it wasn't comfy. I needed to put the soft foam. Once I'd finished that, glued the top on, and we were ready to go. When I first thought about different upholstery, different techniques, I thought of basically doing every different panel. I was going to be cutting out every single piece of that, just so it creates a nice seam finish along there. Nice seam finish to go with all the different edges that I wanted to go with my foam block. The rethinking was that I would create one piece of calico all the way around to the other side. So this was all going to be one piece of calico. So once I started that, as you can see in this photo, I started by tracing. I then marked on the foam, as you can see in this photo, what number this would be, and then what number that correlates to the pattern piece. Once I had those nets, I then got my Dacron out and started cutting out each individual piece. I didn't want it to be in one whole piece because that would soften the edges of each sharp corner. So if I kept it in one piece, like that, kept each individual piece, it would keep those corners nice and sharp because that's where the Dacron. So as you can see in this photo, I cut out the Dacron, glued that onto the ottoman. I didn't want it to be part of this. I didn't want the Dacron to be there because obviously I needed to glue the calico on the inside because it's actually an inside join there. So if there was Dacron, that would just probably pull away from the face. So I made sure there was no Dacron there and also on the other side. So then after that, I had glued the Dacron on, then started with the net tracing out onto the calico, as you can see here, tracing onto the calico, then cutting it out. Once I cut it out with the 20mm gap, then started stitching, and then that's where the problems came, unfortunately. So then the next process was, after I sewn it all together, to wrap it over the top, check that it was all good. Did that once. I wanted to make it a bit tighter, so I undid this seam here, just pulled it together, and then pinned it in place, and then sewed it a bit tight. Once I did that, this edge was obviously, the calico was loose, it was coming in here, so I had to use the spray. In the photo here, you can see that I've used the adhesive spray, sprayed it inside, pushed it down, and it was a bit tight, so I held it in with. So the last phase after this was obviously to staple it to a piece of ply that I'd cut previously. I had the calico coming down at about a 50mm in some areas. I just wrapped that under the bottom, and stapled it. In this photo you can see just used a staple gun. It's pretty simple, pretty easy, and held it in place nicely. So yeah, that's my video journal. I hope I've explained everything in detail. Well, I was really happy with how the foam came together. I was really happy with the construction process. I was really happy with the form in the end. It was just the upholstery that let me down.